This video is not sponsored by Canon. I wish it was, but it's not. I wouldn't mind a sponsorship in the future though, but we are purely just talking about my main camera, the camera that I've been using, which is the Canon M50. Hence the title, I have mastered the M50. Yes, pretentious, I know that very well. The M50 has been my main camera for the past 4 years, I'd say. Pretty much majority of what I've shot in the last 4 years have been on this camera, and for a while I had felt that the Canon M50 had served its fullest potential. I had felt that I had done everything I possibly could have with this camera, and that was like 2 years ago. But I was so very wrong, and since then, I have simply just honed in more on my skill and ability and knowledge of the camera and as a director, filmmaker, which has helped me immensely improve, my work since then. Honestly, it was only as of last year that I had started to see the full capabilities of what this camera could do, honestly speaking. And that's 3 years into owning the camera. And it was only last year that I had seen that, oh, this camera can actually be pushed further than what I originally thought. There was a point where I was like, yeah, I think I'm kind of done with this camera and I don't really have any desire to make anything with it again. And it was only then that I realized that I hadn't even really cracked the surface of how much I could do with it, which is very ironic. Color grading has been the primary skill that took my work from looking kind of like this to more like this. Now, that's not to say that what I had before was necessarily bad, but there was a lot of improvement I felt between the times that I took to really understand color grading and improve my knowledge of color grading. The color profile that I use on the M50 is called CineStyle. I downloaded it, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3. At the time in which I did install it onto the camera, I had no idea what I was really doing. I had a very vague knowledge of what it is and what it could do, but I still lacked a lot of knowledge at the same time as to how I could have maximized, using something like that. And for those curious or not understanding what I mean by that, it's essentially just on this camera, there is no flat color profile. That is an integral part of color grading. On most cameras, I guess, you would have what you would call log, Canon C log, Fujifilm F log, Sony S log, and so on. These color profiles are essential to getting the most out of color grading and making your project look as nice as possible, essentially. And on this camera, it didn't have that, so you kind of had to go and get one put in online, which is pretty easy. When I got the CineStyle one, it was pretty quick process. Never count yourself out. I had convinced myself that this camera had served its maximum purpose, that there was just no way that I could have gotten anything better than what I was already producing. That was 2 years ago, and I feel like I've only recently started making the best work I actually possibly could on this camera. I had convinced myself, if I'm not filming on these big cameras, on these expensive cameras, on your Sony FX3s or your Blackmagics and stuff, that my work wouldn't be deemed credible. It's a very wrong perspective to have. It's a very backwards way to think as someone that calls themselves an artist, a filmmaker, a director. I just think it's a very bad thing. I just think it's a very bad thing to fall into, but we're all guilty of it. In reality, a good story paired with some basic filmmaking knowledge and aspects such as composition, sound, lighting. Once you've kind of honed in on those things, people couldn't care if you shot on an iPhone. They wouldn't even know if you shot on an iPhone. They genuinely wouldn't. They would just think that, wow, this is just a good video. you know, and then you might have someone that is curious as to, oh, what did you film this on? And then you tell them, oh, I shot on this, and they're like, oh, wow, I thought it was like something much more. And you're like, no, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. Not too much went into this. It doesn't matter what the project is, just make a branch look like a tree on screen. You know, that might sound like very pretentious or like I'm trying to sound smart, but that's genuinely what I tell myself. Try and make a branch look like a tree on screen. And once you do that, then, you know, there's just no way you won't make something that's good. And the quality of your camera would be the last thing that anyone actually thinks about. But yeah, don't really do videos like this, but it's been something that I've been thinking about doing. And, you know, hopefully people take something away from this and they think that this has been helpful in any type of way. And if it's a case where I need to do more practical videos kind of explaining what it is that I'm doing or how it is that I'm doing it, then that's completely fine. But like and subscribe, I guess, or goodbye. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or night, depending on when you're watching this. But yeah.